Is everything you know about running nutrition wrong?
Macca's cheeseburger is my go-to.
Nicole Miller is an accredited sports dietitian, former elite swimmer, and current ultra marathon runner.
From the start to the finish, 16 hours later, it was just me, solo.
In this chat, we discuss how she goes about fueling her own races, how her approach has changed over the years, and how she goes about helping those who are getting ready for their first ultra marathon optimally fuel their race.
And that's definitely where having that experience and the practice of doing it 10 times better than just reading a textbook.
This is a great chat, so let's get to it. All right, we're live. Back to another episode of Performance That Matters, joined by a very, very, very special guest and Brizzy local, Nicole Miller. Nicole, thanks for coming on.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Now, the beauty of having a home studio is that it is very easy for me, but also we have a guest under the table, my Groodle Moose, who's moving around. So if anyone who's listening to this hears us laughing, kicking anything, it's probably because he's chewing us or licking our feet. So just a heads up.
Got a foot warmer.
Nicole, gave you an introduction before. We went on a run this morning and all the prep that I did for this episode, this did not come up in the prep and you completely blindsided. Within 5 to 10 minutes of our run, you drop in, oh yeah, by the way, I trialled for London Olympics. Talk us about your career as an ex-elite swimmer, because I can't believe that did not come up in my research.
It's all about running now, I guess. I started swimming probably before I could walk ages ago. And from such a young age, it was twice a day, swimming 2 hours in the morning, swimming 2 hours at night. But I never really had access to any nutrition stuff. It was all training based and it was hard, but I loved it. And I think it honestly set me up to have the discipline and the work ethic that I do now.
What was that like? Because you started really young, so I'm assuming 2, 3 or something like that? Like 4, 5?
I don't know. Just young, yeah.
Yeah. So basically from the hospital, throw you in the pool. What was that like going through your younger years and then your adolescent years? Because I'm assuming, like you said, really strict training protocol, right? Balancing that with school. What was that like?
I think going through swimming, but then also being a teenage girl where you're really vulnerable and body image is a really huge part of high school, even coming straight out of high school. It was hard not knowing, how to eat differently to your peers that don't train as much as you do. They eat completely differently and then you have to eat another way. So it was hard kind of learning all of that information. But
how do you feel it impacted what you do today? Because I think when I was back in high school, I was playing rugby very seriously, training 7 days a week, competing twice. And then I didn't eat a salad until I was 16. I didn't even know that anything about nutrition, didn't know anything about fueling. And I went through academies where we had nutritionists and dietitians and it just wasn't on the radar. What was your experience with it? Did you have a nutritionist, a dietitian that had an impact on you, or it just wasn't existent?
Very, very, very minimal. There was basically zero input for nutrition at all. It was I remember we had one 30-minute or 45-minute chat from a dietitian. And it was hey, just make sure that you're drinking, make sure that you're eating after you swim, before you swim. That was it. So super minimal input. It was kind of just left. I think a lot of it was left up to our parents. They were kind of oh, what do we, research some breakfast foods for swimmers, or here, have a banana while, before you train. So I think mum and dad, kudos, shout out to you guys, but you learnt a lot. But there was minimal, zero input from any nutritionist, dietitian.
And how far did you get? So you said you got to trials for London, is that right?
Yeah, down in Adelaide. That was in 2012. Yeah, so started off doing all the state teams and then did a few national teams. And then with your national team, you go and you can do obviously the every 4 years you do the Olympic or the Com Game trials. And that one was in Adelaide.
Yeah. How much do you feel that impacted you being exercise scientist, PT, and then a dietitian?
Yeah, I think it became my personality. I think
being a swimmer or the dietitian?
Everything. I remember, like, I think swimming was my personality all through school. It was like so structured, and there was a routine, and there was a early wake up. You had to do everything in a set routine, because if you don't, homework doesn't get done. Like, and then try and fit a social life in there as well. So it did become like my personality. When I stopped swimming, like, I had no idea. Like, it was like, okay, now I change what I'm eating. I have an extra 5 hours in my day. Like, what do I do with this? I can socialize. So yeah, it was good. And I think that definitely coming from like a sporting background, definitely set me up into knowing that I want to go into like a health. I don't think I really knew after school what sort of health work, but some sort of sport, health. Obviously that led me to nutrition, definitely.
A lot of the conversations we have with mentees when we run our mentorships, they want to get into sports. And one of the things I always say to them is, look, there's a big difference between watching a jiu-jitsu competition and competing in a jiu-jitsu competition. And I think not that you have to be a world champion or you have to be the main sparring partner, but I do really believe you have to understand what your athletes are going through at some degree. Because, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, there's all this theory and practice, right? But then putting it into reality and going, hey man, eat X amount of carbs and eat this meal beforehand, and go, if you've never been on the mats or you've never been in the pool or you've never run 100 kilometers, it's like, that's just not doable. And I think having that lived experience as an athlete, so important. Did you find when you were connecting with your athletes, having this background of, okay, I've had structured training, I've gone through training cycles, I know what a camp's like, I know what it's like balancing all these other stresses of life, then having to eat and then having to do this and then get in the pool. Did that help you connect with your clients?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Like, I feel so confident talking to swimmers, talking to runners, ultra runners, even all of that sort of stuff, because yeah, I've done it. If, I'm not a fighter, like it's not really my niche. I don't know much about it. Like, I don't have any experience me doing that. So giving advice to people about, oh, yep, weight cutting and all of this stuff, like, I have not experienced that myself. So I think the swimming and the running aspect definitely increased my confidence, and yeah, I just relate so much more to athletes who are doing the same thing. And it's also like, you can have all the theory and all the textbook stuff that's going to work, but sometimes there's these weird rules and strategies that you pick up along the way from swimming or running that isn't in any textbook or theory, but you can, you've experienced that, and it's like a little trick that you can pull out with other people, and they're like, oh, how did you figure that out? I've done it. Like, I've tried it. I know how to do it.
Yeah, I think that athletes, especially elite athletes, are 10 years above the research. They're always 10 years ahead of the research, because when you're an academic or you're a researcher, the outcome is not your livelihood, in the sense that if I win this race, I get paid and now I can pay my bills and now I can go about and providing for my family. When you're an academic or a researcher, nothing wrong with that, but you're just producing papers, right? And you're just going through the motions. But when you're in a team, high performance team, you go, okay, all of our jobs are on the line. We need to make money out of this. You find something that works and you go, oh my God, like, no one else is doing this and it's working and it shouldn't be working. It's not in the textbook. You're going to run with it. And I see that all the time with our elite level guys. There's things that a lot of the information we put out about weight cutting 5, 6, 7 years down the track, now it's getting published at research. But I remember doing this and having conversations with other practitioners, and you would talk to other people in the university space, other practitioners, and they go, what are you talking about? That doesn't make sense. You go, man, it works. Like, in the field, that's what works. And this is what makes us win. And it's like, you've got to have that understanding. You've got to understand, okay, yeah, don't get me wrong. The textbook's there for a reason. Best practice guidelines are there for a reason. But when you're really pushing the edge here and you've got this guy, you need to do everything you can to win. Sometimes you're not going to find that in the textbook.
Yeah. And that's definitely like where having that experience and the practice of doing it 10 times better than just reading a textbook.
I agree.
100%.
Last October, Blackall 100. I would say up there, one of the toughest races, definitely in Queensland, probably in Australia. And the reason why it's so tough for people who don't understand, it's a 100-kilometre race up at the Sunshine Coast. Beautiful, beautiful scenery up there. It's a time of year where you do all your training through the winter months. It's nice and cool. And then that week in October, it just flicks. You go out there and by 9 a.m, it's probably 32 to 34 degrees. It's humid. You're getting up to 90 to 100% humidity. And a lot of the race is very exposed, very, very tough. You ran it last year. I think you said it's your third time being out on the Blackall course.
I'm a sucker for punishment, right?
Which is, wild to me.
Fuck, a sucker for the same punishment over and over again. The same thing.
Talk us through this last year event, because out of all the years, it's always hot. But last year was particularly hot, particularly humid. Talk us through how that race went.
I think someone told me that it was 36 or 37 degrees
Jesus.
in like the peak heat of the day. And the hard thing about Blackall is like the peak heat of the day, you're going up the biggest mountain. And like you said, it's so exposed. So you just got the sun shining on you. Yeah. But I loved it. Like, when you asked me like my experience about Blackall, I think I blocked out a lot of, in my brain, I think I blocked out a lot of aspects of it. So it really made me go back and think what was good, what was bad. But it was like a race that I have never had before. I think when I kind of explain ultra running to other people, you can have periods where you're feeling so amazing and you're like, I'm going to crush this. This is amazing. This is so much fun. I can't wait. And then just like that, it flips and you're in a deep hole going, I want to quit. Nothing's working. This sucks. And even in like your best race, that can happen to anyone. Like it's just a natural flow, and you're going to hit those down points at some point of the race, and then it comes back up and you're feeling great. But Blackall last year, I think with the heat, it was the one race that I have never had so many, moments of feeling really good and then feeling really bad in such quick succession. I kid you not, I was feeling amazing for 5 minutes. Next 5 minutes, I was like, I'm pulling out. I'm not doing this anymore. This sucks. And the heat got to me. And then 5 minutes later, I went like on top of the world. This is amazing. 5 minutes later, this sucks. So I think the heat definitely played into that up and down flow a lot more than like if I did a race in winter. It might be more spread out. You go through the longer ebbs and flows, but the heat definitely meant that I had a lot more lows than I did highs.
Did you do any specific training or acclimation for the heat leading up, or just straight into it?
I actually went into this Blackall compared to like my last ones. I went into this Blackall 100. I'm not going to say undertrained, but I kind of went in really relaxed, didn't put in the effort that I did with my training and that for the ones before, and the reason being for that is I have a tendency to push myself too far and get injured. Like my IT band flares up. I have a lot of overuse injuries. So I was like, I'm not going to push it that far. I'm going to dial it back this time and see what my body can do. I actually performed way better than the ones before, but the heat definitely got to me. I didn't do any heat like work or anything like that. And I think even if I did, I don't think it would have prepared me for the heat of the day, because it was so beautiful. The weather was so nice in the months leading up to it. And then on that day, it was like heat wave. And sometimes you just can't prepare for that.
Do you think now that you've gone through it, there's a mental aspect though? If you were to face that again, it's okay, I've been here before. I understand what's going on. I know I can get through it. Is that something you think that would help you moving forward?
Yeah, definitely for like another Blackall, if I decide to go and do it again. But I think I kind of went into it a little bit naive because the first 2 Blackwall 100s I did, it was obviously like a cooler day. So I didn't have that aspect of heat messing me up. It was quite nice. So I kind of thought, oh, this one is going to be just like the last 2. But no, it really turned it on.
Are you a big sweater by chance?
I'm going to say medium.
So I have a theory with ultra running, and I think this is why I'm so interested in it. Years and years ago, I had a theory about weight cutting, and then I just went all in and said, I've got to fix this. Not fix it, I need to figure it out. There's something going on here. And I feel like that led me down this path of, oh my God, I need to figure out what's happening to like the blood once we're sweating and getting so dehydrated. And then, okay, once these guys have made weight, once I figured out what was going on in the body, I had this aha moment of going, oh, what we're actually trying to fix is not what we're talking about in these textbooks or guidelines or whatever, and that's why everyone struggles with it. Funny enough, when I swapped over to ultra marathon, that exact same problem I found was in a lot of ultra runners. And my theory goes is that there's one factor that you can assess with every athlete to determine whether they're going to be one of those people. When I say one of the people that don't struggle, everyone struggles, but you know those guys that get to the aid station, they're just like, I'll have some of this, I'll eat like some meat, some cheese, and like watermelon, and nothing's a problem. And then I'll drink this, and then they run. They're like, they're sore, don't get me wrong, but they're on their merry way, and they're like, blah, blah, blah. And then you get the guys who are dragging their feet, and they're like, oh my God, I can't look at anything, I'll suck an ice cube, those type of people. Whether you are that person or the other person, I think is your sweat rate.
I agree.
And the reason I say that is because all it comes down to is that can you maintain that homeostasis in your body where it doesn't disturb like your blood electrolyte levels. And really that's what I think is the biggest problem. And when we get these hot, humid races where all of a sudden people are sweating a lot, it's almost impossible to meet your needs. And then every hour, even if you're making a conscious effort to put that fluid back in, you're always in the ditch. And we've even come up with these algorithms where it's like, okay, if I can figure out what your sweat rate is, I can figure out how fast you're replacing it. You can almost every time pinpoint, okay, you're probably going to DNF here. Unless you do some like intervention or we do some mental work or we do something, this is going to be a point at this percentage dehydration where it's just too much. And funny enough, that came from the weight cutting in the fighters because the state that the guys get right at the end of a weight cut is very similar to the state that big sweaters get in ultra marathons. And the reason why I found it was so interesting is that when I did all the research, I went, how do I do it for myself? A lot of what I was reading, I guess what we're taught, is focused on little sweaters, like small sweaters. So the way we talk about that is like, okay, the problem is hyponatremia. How do we fix that? And I go, I don't think that's the problem for big sweaters. I think that's when you're talking about elite marathon runners that run a marathon in 2 hours 10 and then yeah, they're not going to be sweating too much. And then a lot of our research is focused over there. That's where we focus our attention. But what about all these amateur low-level guys who are sweating for 12 to 20 hours? We can't take that same approach to them.
100%.
And then I go, really, it just comes down to your sweat rate. And that's why I think these races like Blackwall are so interesting because you have these cooler events where you go, oh man, that wasn't too bad. Like that was all right. And you go, and we'll go through your nutrition and how it changes. It changes everything. And you go, oh, like what was the approach that was different? It's like, oh, I didn't change that much. I was just really hot. And the reason is just your losses are just so much faster and you go so much in the ditch and you change that blood chemistry in your body. And once it gets to a point you're dehydrated, you get high blood sodium or low if you're over drinking too much or you don't have enough salt in there. And it's just so hard to come back from. So hard to come back from.
It's so hard to replace all of that once you've lost it. And Blackwall, I think, like I know, you know, all that science and everything behind it, but I think during Blackwall, I saw the carnage out there and I kid you not, there was people vomiting, there was people passing out, like all, you know, people just pale as a ghost, huge sweaty people, and it kind of opened my eyes a bit, exactly what you just talked about. I was like, whoa, this is a huge issue.
That was the biggest thing for me when I got into ultra endurance because And I've experienced myself, like I ended up in the ICU because I followed what I thought was the best thing, but it's like, it's not individualized enough. And I think, okay, when we're getting out these like, okay, don't drink too much water because you're going to go hyponatremic or whatever. And it's like, no, you need a way more individualized approach, especially when you're exercising and you're out there for 12, 14, 16, 18, 24. You're doing a mile or up to 30, 36 hours. There's so many things that can go wrong. And it's just, okay, how do I stop that from happening? I always say to our guys in ultra marathon, everyone loses. It's just, how do you slow the rate that you're losing? And can you slow that down to a point where it allows you to get across the finish line? And that's something that I've learned, like even working with Ned, that was a big thing, right? It was like a big part of the strategy when he's doing this 1,000-mile run and we're doing crazy mileage each day for a crazy amount of time. It's like, well, how do we stack the cards in your favor? And it's like running at night, taking away that heat is going to be a huge factor in this because it just puts so much less stress on his body and it makes it so that we can slow that rate of loss so much more. So if I can keep him hydrated, keep him sipping, that means we're still going to be able to perfuse blood to his gut. He's going to be able to get that food in. He's going to be getting the carbs in. He's going to get the fats and proteins in. He's got the calories. Okay, then he can keep going. And that's just the physical, right? And then you're managing all the mental on top of that. But it's so crazy.
You can't find that in a textbook.
Yeah. Let's talk about your plan because you've done it 3 times. What was your plan going into it with your nutrition versus what actually happened when you're out there on the day?
Yeah. Having done it before, I had a pretty good idea. Each time I've done it, I've kind of tweaked things and gone, okay, what didn't work last time? What can I improve on this time? What I did was, pull up all the checkpoints, figure out the distances between each checkpoint, what you're going to need in terms of food and fluids between 1 and 2, 2 and 3. What did go to plan, all my nutrition in terms of food, amazing, great. So in training, I tried absolutely everything, different gels, lollies, dried fruit, different types of drinks. I tried everything and it worked great. And I think that's something that I think is really important in training is that you try everything, figure out what you like, what you don't like. One of the things that works for me is that I can start at the start of an ultra eating anything. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. But as time goes on, my options reduce and what I decide to have really niches down. But yeah, lollies, dried fruit. This time, one of my favorites is like a Macca's cheeseburger. So in an ultra.
That's going to be controversial. I'm just queuing for the comments from that one. Oh, God.
Macca's cheeseburger is like, my go-to. That and I do like 2-minute noodles if it's like a cold race.
That's going to get cheers from all the ultra community. We'll get people just be blasting about a Macca's cheeseburger. Then people will be like, 2-minute noodles, 2-minute noodles.
To make it even more controversial, I do choose to leave the pickle on.
Oh,
I don't.
I don't know about that. During a race, I'd probably leave the pickle on. I'm not a pickle guy, though.
Love it. Macca's cheeseburger. I think it's really important to have foods that obviously you enjoy as well. And it's something that you look forward to. And especially later in the race, I get so excited about a Macca's cheeseburger. What didn't work for me, so this black all, I decided, because I've done it twice before, I decided that I'd spice things up a little bit this time and go without a crew. So basically it meant that from the start to the finish, 16 hours later, it was just me solo. So I didn't have anybody meet me at any of the checkpoints. I didn't have, people bringing me food, nutrition, hydration, different clothes, shoes. I didn't have anyone bring me anything. What I did have was drop bags. So at each checkpoint, I had to really plan what I was going to have and think about, are you going to want to change shoes? Because if you don't want to change shoes here, that's it. No one's bringing you anything else. And it was good. It was so good. But you have to think. Like, when you have a crew, they can think for you. Tell them your plan beforehand. I might want to change shoes, bring me extra fluids here if it's really hot, or do this and that for me. But when you have no crew, whatever your plan is and whatever you've put in your drop bags is what is there. You don't have anything else, maybe obviously a few things from aid stations, but you're on your own, and you have to, when things don't go right, you have to think for yourself. You can't have anyone else go, oh, here you go, this didn't go right, let's try this or that. It's all down to you. So I did mess up actually my hydration during the hottest part of the day. It was, I don't know, afternoon, but I had 2 500 ml flasks of fluids on the front, and I had 2 in my back of my vest. And I got to a checkpoint and forgot to fill them up. And the next checkpoint was, I think it's just under 20K away. Right. So and I think there's one water station between.
Was that your game plan, I guess, coming back to it? What was the goal then with like your fluid, carbs, calories? Did you have a set amount that you wanted to hit, I don't know, between each checkpoint every hour? How did you set that up?
I did, but then the heat, I just didn't anticipate the heat. So I banked on like roughly 500 ml every hour, but that I was drinking way more than that. And I think something that let me down was I didn't account for, it wasn't quite cool in the morning, but it was not that bad. So I was hitting all my new hydration targets at the start. When it got really hot, I didn't account for increasing that. And then I ran out of fluid. So then you had to kind of extend till when you get your bottles filled up. So yeah, that's something that I didn't really account for was, obviously as it gets hotter, you sweat more, you need more fluid, you have to increase that amount.
How did you get the number for 500? Do you test? Like, do you sweat test yourself and then go, okay, say if we went out on our run this morning, come home, weigh yourself, I had this, and then figure it out? Or do you just go with the old drink to thirst, or how do you approach it?
A bit of both. So yeah, and that's the hard thing as well. Like when you do the weigh yourself beforehand, go on a run, weigh yourself after, calculate it. I had done that, but I had done that in temperatures that were a lot cooler. And so when you then go and do it for black oil, you have to account for the fact that obviously that's going to be way hotter. You're going to sweat more. So that blew it out as well. But yeah, a bit of that. But I also do runs where I just drink to thirst as well, and then calculate, okay, I drank to thirst on that run, how much, and then calculate it after. How much did I drink? How do I feel after? Am I feeling super thirsty after? You've probably underdone it, undercooked it, and kind of go off that as well. So I get 2 numbers, I guess.
Well, that's kind of like the big argument, right, in all sports science when it comes to this hydration. What's the best way to go about it? Do you do it and you figure out scientifically, well, how much is your body losing? And let's say even you break it down and go, what's your cold weather strategy, hot weather strategy? We do that. I remember like with Ned, and I'll use Ned because we were able to collect a lot of data. Not always easy to do when you're in the middle of the trails. When we're sitting around a track and the poor guy's running around for hours every day, we can get on the laptop and actually control a lot of things. But it was very clear. It's like, okay, during the day, we have to utilize this cold weather strategy, and as it goes in the middle of the day, we have to have a hot weather strategy. The sweat rate would have went up by 50 to 60 or sometimes 70%, depending on what the humidity was doing. But this is a big debate, right? Where, okay, do you take that approach where it's like replace losses, or do you rely on your body and do you go drink to thirst? And there's good reasoning on both sides of it, right? Because you go, man, when a lot of people go through, okay, I'm going to be very rigid with this is what my body loses, they end up in a really bad spot. But then also, if you go drink to thirst, sometimes, and when you're in an ultra or doing these crazy events, when it starts getting on, you can't always rely on your body. You can't always rely on it to tell you what you need. And then all of a sudden you rock up to a checkpoint and you are completely wasted. I remember looking at a video when I did Blackall, and I was filming it for Billy to put in the video we were making, and I was holding my camera like this, and I watched this video and I went, oh my God, I'm like, look like I just completed a weight cut. Like, it's just like this floating skull talking with this really rusty voice. And it's like my whole face is so indented.
Yep.
And it was about 65 Ks in. So you just battled the heat of the day. And I go, whatever I tried to do there, obviously it did not work because I'm so behind the eight. But you can get yourself out of it.
Yeah.
But it sets up this interesting position, which I don't think we have the best answer for, where it's like, which one's better? Do you get it really rigid and figure out exactly these are your losses, and you're in this position where, well, how does that work then if I'm running up a mountain in the middle of the day, it's really hot, and then we've got this flat bit that's not exposed and it's quite cooler, so what do I do? Or do I drink to thirst, and then maybe if I don't get that right, or there's no aid stations available and I run out of water, like what happened to you, what do you do then?
Yeah, I think definitely having a bit of both is what I have found is a bit of both. Obviously, like having the numbers and calculating it all is really helpful to get a starting point, but then practicing everything. So practice your hydration. Are you way off? Are you, does the number spit out at 500 mil an hour, but you're feeling amazing doing 400 mil an hour and everything's well and dandy? Like I agree. It's completely bit of both. And as you said, I wouldn't do one solely and not do the other. I think if you're going to drink to thirst, you kind of want to have an idea of where you're targeting, like, what's a rough guess as well.
What I found, and again, this is coming back from the weight cutting, where this trait, which is awesome for weight cutting, if you sweat heaps, that means we're in the sauna less amount of time. If you can get 3 liters off an hour, and we've got 4 liters to get, that's awesome. We're in just over an hour in the sauna. Let's get you on the scale. But you take that person and put them in an ultra race where they're sweating for 6 to 12, 18, 20, whatever hours. It's like, that's not a good thing. And obviously your sweat rates go down as you get on. But that's one of the big things, right? When we're looking at this and you're going, well, which one do I do? I always seem to think, and what I found in practice is if you are one of those lighter sweaters and you're saying, okay, 500 mils enough for you, you could probably get away with drinking to thirst, and you're probably more likely to be that person who's rocking up to the aid station. I'll just try this, and you're suffering, but because the detriment and the decrease that you're going to find yourself over time is far less than the guy that's losing 2 liters per hour, who, if they're just drinking to thirst, they're already 2-3 hours in. If they're just having a liter, they're so behind the 8 ball, they're just it's gonna be terrible for them.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, okay, where do you fall in those two camps? Maybe this approach is better for you. And then, like you said, you've got to go out there and see, because maybe this works for the first 6 hours and you have this rigid plan, but then after that, it's like, man, I just can't keep up with this. It's just like you need to swap to a more drink to thirst approach.
Yeah. And it has a flow-on effect as well, right? Like if you're one of those people who rocks up absolutely cooked at a checkpoint, chances are...
It's me.
I've been there too. But yeah, it's so hard to bring back those hydration levels, but it has a flow-on effect. You're not going to be able to tolerate then a lot of your nutrition. You're mentally going to be fatigued, physically going to be fatigued. Yeah, it kind of has a flow-on effect, and I think that's when it leads to obviously your DNF. Like it honestly starts with your hydration.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I say that to everyone. I go, if you get your hydration right, again, you'll slow that rate, because the way I think of it, you get dehydrated, plasma volume goes down, more stress on your cardiovascular system. You then cannot perfuse, physically, you cannot perfuse blood to your stomach because you don't have the plasma volume to do that effectively. Now you're trying to put calories in, but you don't have the blood flow to be able to push that through your system, digest it. So you're either going to throw it up or it's just going to sit there and you're going to feel terrible. So now not only are you not taking in fluid, you're not taking in calories, and then you're just going completely mental. Like, I've just mentally got to push, but that's only going to last so long. There's a point where no matter how mentally tough you are, it's just physiologically it's not going to happen, right? So it's like if you can stay on top of that hydration piece early on, figure out what's the best approach here. Is it, do I need a rigid? Do I drink to thirst? Do I do it both? And then how does this going to work for this event that I'm doing that's really hot and humid? You're probably setting yourself up to do the best. Even though you do everything right, it's still going to suck.
Yeah, I completely agree.
What did you do in terms of carbs and calories? Like, did you have, okay, I want to hit 60 grams, 80 gram, 90 gram. I want to hit 250 calories. What was your game plan there?
This is something I have exactly what we talked about, where you can have the textbook, but then until you go out there and practice it, it can, obviously you've got two different answers. It can change. So I, all through my training, roughly was sitting about like 60 to 90 grams of carbs an hour. I have found that I can tolerate a really high, like I can tolerate 90 grams of carbs an hour and my gut's fine. I feel great. No issues. What I have found is that when I first started ultra running, I would be like, okay, my carbs per hour is going to be 80 or 70 or whatever it was the whole time. It's going to be this amount. And if I'm 1 gram over or 1 gram under, the plan's out the window. But as I have been obviously doing more ultras and training and everything, I've widened that range a heck of a lot. A lot. I can, tolerate higher grams of carbs per hour, like the 90 earlier. I find that obviously with the heat, that really reduces my appetite. I find that I can drop my grams of carbs per hour, not significantly so that I bonk, but so that it's not as much pressure on my gut, but still fueling myself. So I can kind of sit within a range depending on how I'm feeling. But yeah, it's something that I've kind of learned over a longer period of time, is like it doesn't have to be one number. Like you can have a range, and that range can scale up and down depending on heat, depending on how you're feeling, depending on like time of day, and are you getting in that grams of carbs per hour in fluid, or are you getting that in through food?
Did you have a calorie goal that you were looking for, or is it just, I just want to kind of get around that 80 grams and then be flexible with it?
Yeah, that's something I kind of don't worry about, because if I have found that I can be, if you have a calorie, 400 calories or 300 calories, you can still either not hit or hit over your grams of carbs per hour. And I think all well and good if you have like the mental capacity to think about that. But I just found that it was something else I was having to think about. And as long as I got my carbs, I had my fluids, the calories kind of came with it. And it's like sometimes the deeper that you get into an ultra, things change. Your plan goes to plan B, goes to plan C, goes to plan Z. And so, you might go, sweet, at checkpoint 5, I'm going to have this food, it's this many calories, X, Y, Z. But you might get there and go, I don't feel like that at all. I'm going to have something else. And to then go, oh, how many calories is that? And how many carbs is that? It's a lot.
It's an interesting one, because go back to that point you were talking about when you're coming into the checkpoint with your bottles and you totally forgot that you had these bottles. And I'll talk about net only because it was so easy. Well, it wasn't easy. It was very difficult to collect all this data, but there were really cool trends that we saw. And me and Coach Matty Abel, his coach, was phenomenal at collecting this data. And one of the things that was a real consistent trend that we saw is that when Ned would go round, we'd offer food every time he'd come basically 8 laps in, 8 laps out, and then he'd eat a meal. If we didn't get in a good amount of carbs in any of those 2 points, his mood, irritability, everything would just go, like mental function and capacity would just go down. And what we found after a couple of days and going through the data and tracking it is going, oh man, we didn't get that influx of 30, 40, 50, 60 grams there. And then we just saw this. He was fine. Like he was moving well. And really at that intensity, right? It's not like we're running a sub 3-hour marathon where we're just churning through carbohydrates. Quite low intensity, is probably mostly burning fat, but still just the mental piece in that and being able to think and make decisions. And like you say, when you get deep in these ultras and it's like, oh God, like it's hard enough just moving my 2 feet in front of each other, let alone figuring out if I got to go left or right, let alone figuring out, is this the best option? Is this the best option? How many calories? Like having those carbs on deck for anything else just to keep your brain going is so important.
Yeah, definitely. And I think having a plan for all of that stuff is great when it's the shorter distances sometimes. Like you can have a super strict plan, you can execute it all as well. But if you want to do those ultra distances, you kind of have to expect that your plan isn't going to go to plan. Like it's not your plan A, 1% of the time will be what you finish with. You might be on plan E or F by the time you finish, and you just have to go, okay, this is my plan. When things don't go right, and I know if I don't have anything at all, I'm going to be moody. Like you said, my muscles are going to hate me. I'm going to feel like crap. But I need to have something. What can I do? How can I problem solve this? Do I flip to fluids? Do I have a different food? Like what can I do to kind of bring myself back from that?
All right, lots of talk about the ultras. Let's wrap this bit up and go, if you had recommendations for someone who's doing their first ultra, they've just gone on, they found this podcast and they go, oh, okay, I've been training, I'm trying to figure out how much I'm meant to eat, what I'm meant to be eating, what I'm drinking. What are you telling that person who's listening?
If it's their first ultra, like the basic boring stuff first. So you can go out and start your training and have the coolest gels and have all the electrolytes and all of this stuff. But day to day, if you're skipping breakfast, you're underdoing your calories, you're eating takeaway foods, like what is the point? So sometimes the answer that people don't like is like the basic boring stuff. Do that first. Get the calories in, figure out how many calories roughly equate to your training. Get that in first. Once you've got that basic boring stuff down pat, then you can go, okay, focus on my training. What does that look like? Can I try different foods and gels and pre-training snacks and post-training breakfast and stuff during it as well? So boring basic stuff, get the base right before you focus on the 1% stuff. But I think it's usually flipped. I think if people start training for marathons and ultra marathons, naturally they just go straight to the little 1%ers because it's exciting. It's like part of the training and everything, but you just have to do the boring stuff first.
Can you throw numbers at it? Can we say, okay, is there a calorie equation? Is there something amount of protein or carbs, or is there like a rough guide we can throw out, or is it too individual for everyone?
For everybody?
Let's just say.
I think it's so different. I think it depends on so many factors that just going, hey, it's going to be 2,500 calories and 130 grams of protein, like that's stupid, because it honestly depends on like gender. What have you been doing? Like have you come from the couch, or have you come from like a really sporty general fitness background? Like you have those adaptations and the training behind you already. It depends on your age. It depends on where you're living. So many different things. So I wouldn't want to throw out any numbers because they'd probably be so different.
That's a very good answer. Very good answer. We had this combo on the run this morning, and I think it's probably a combo that when you talk about it, probably annoys a lot of nutritionists and dietitians, but I think you and I worked with enough athletes for enough years at a very high level to realize there is definitely a hierarchy when it comes to, okay, how do you build a very high level athlete, and where does nutrition sit in that hierarchy? And again, I think as us, we make our money advising people on what to eat. Don't get me wrong, I love my job, but I know very well where my place is in the high performance team and how much impact it's having. And don't get me wrong, I want to say this before we start talking about nutrition is very important, but I think it's important for athletes to understand how important it is compared to everything else, especially when it comes to your training. Because like you said, I think when someone commits to this goal, they might read a very motivational book or whatever, and then get very into it, it's almost like their priorities get very scattered. And like at the end of the day, if you want to run 100 kilometers, if you want to swim really fast, if you want to cycle really far, if you want to get in the ring and box, you kind of got to do the goddamn thing first. And then you use your nutrition to support that. Yeah. And at the end of the day, like, so if me and you have a race, Nicole, and we go, let's race to the top of the hill, like it doesn't matter how well I eat. Like I'm not beating you to the top of the hill. You're just a better runner. Like, or if we go up against someone who's like a CrossFit athlete and I go into that gym and they fast for a day and I eat the best CrossFit diet, if I'm not trained in that, that guy's going to beat me every single day of the week. It's the training that's really, really important. It's the training that gives you the adaptations that you need to become a better athlete. But you can set up your nutrition to support all of that. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what the actual role is of nutrition for an athlete. So if we go, even if you had to put a number to it, I don't know if you're comfortable, like what percentage of this, if we talk about becoming a better athlete, what percentage of it is training and what percentage is nutrition? You have a number, you throw out your number, I'll throw out my number.
70-30.
Oh, that's good. I was going to say 80-20.
Okay.
80-20. 70-30. Break that down for us.
Okay. 70% training, 30% nutrition, because obviously exactly what you just said. You can't eat a banana and then get fitter. Like
expect to be Lance Armstrong.
Just doesn't work. Like 100%, you need to go out and you need to do, if you're going to run a marathon, you need to go out and do the different types of trainings, and you need to run 20, 30K in training to gain the adaptations, the fitness, the strength. Like you need to do the gym work. You don't get that from having a protein shake sitting on the couch. Like you need to do it. So 70% training, because 100% what you just said, if you don't do the goddamn thing, like nothing happens. I'm going to give 30% to nutrition, purely because I think when you have 30% nutrition, you can do the 70% training a heck of a lot easier. Like if you're doing the training, but you're not having pre-training snacks, like if you're going out on super long runs, you're having nothing during it, you're dehydrated, all of that sort of stuff, you might think you're working at a 10 out of 10. Like you can still go out and run a 10, 21K marathon and not focus on your nutrition. Like you can do that, and you might be a gun at it and think that you're doing 10 out of 10 effort, but really that 10 out of 10 effort, that might be like your 6 out of 10 unless you add nutrition on top of it. When you add, you have a good base nutrition, you add the pre-training snacks and you're hydrated and everything, think of how much like you could elevate that training. So yeah, training, definitely 100% super important. But yeah, nutrition.
I'm going to change my answer to 70-30. The reason I like talking about this, and I probably didn't appreciate it when I was younger, so I've been doing elite level athletes for probably a decade now, so about a decade. And that's given me, and I've been very lucky that I have some very long-term clients as well, and I've seen very long-term impacts that both training and nutrition has on those guys. And that's changed my thoughts on this completely, because I guess when I came out of university those many, many moons ago, I thought it was the end all and be all. And then when I started working with very elite level athletes, and I'd go, man, this guy's like one of 5 best in the world at what they do, and all they're doing is ordering Uber Eats. There's no structure around their eating. Their base diet is terrible. They're kind of intuitively probably getting the right amount of calories and just kind of juggling it around, and they're kind of in the ballpark of it, but they're not doing anything in terms of like macro splits that are favorable for this sport. There's no micronutrient quality. There's no nutrient timing. They're not supplementing for performance. They're not focusing on anything for recovery after training. And I'm sitting there going, but how are they still the best in the world, or one of the best in the world at what they do? And it's like, well, man, because they train really freaking hard every single day and they're super, super consistent. But then as the years go by, and especially as these athletes not come out of their prime, but I like to think about it as like, as they get older and they go on, you really see the impact that those nutritional choices have. And it's not how long they stay in their prime. It's how long is their prime for. That's something that became very, very obvious to me, especially as I got a few more years under my belt with specific athletes. And I saw, man, there's one guy who follows this, not super strict, not calorie counting every day by any means, but eats a really good, mostly whole foods diet, enjoys a meal here and there with his friends and family, does the pre-workout stuff exactly like we tell him, fuels during, afterwards he's straight onto his recovery, he's hydrating well, he gets the electrolytes, he's got the supplements to make up the deficiencies, compared to the guy that's just winging it, doing the Uber Eats here and there. That first guy, so many less injuries, can compete way more frequently, blood works so much better. Like everything about that person is just so much more advantageous for being a better athlete for a longer period of time. And then you look at the other guy and you're like, man, this guy's riddled with injuries. Every camp that they go into, he's just battling something. We're throwing Band-Aids over it. You can tell this is taking a real toll on his recovery. All his recovery metrics are just not good. His strength numbers in the gym compared to these other elite guys are just not where. But you can get away with it when you're super technically proficient, you've got a great game plan, you've got a good team of coaches, and you're just super committed and consistent to the goal. And that's where I always think now, that's the impact nutrition is going to have. Day by day, those little things that you're doing, yes, it's going to be able to make you develop as an athlete over time. You're going to be able to feel specific adaptations. You're going to be able to rock up to training, do the intensity, do the duration. But in the long term, it could extend your career by 5, 6, 7 years. And that's crazy. And that's an absolutely huge impact that we don't really talk about a lot.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's definitely like the recovery aspect of it, right? Like a lot of people think even if they have got their nutrition down pat, they think of, a marathon, they're nailing like carb loading or everything beforehand. They've got their plan for during, even in training and stuff, they've got their plan for during, but then after training is done, after the event is done, it's like there's no plan for afterwards. And so I think, the recovery aspect, like you can get away with not doing all of that stuff for a certain amount of time, and then that recovery becomes 10 times more important. Like, are you injured for 6 months because you've just absolutely bonked your nutrition and haven't really been paying attention to it? Or do you get an injury? Because everyone gets injured. Like, if you're going to be doing sports, sometimes you just can't help an injury, and it might not have anything to do with nutrition or something that you've done wrong. But if you get an injury, are you injured for 6 months or are you injured for like 3 weeks? And then that can make obviously such a huge difference. If someone's out for 6 months, it's a lot to build back up and focus on, building everything back up from the base, back from the ground up. So, yeah.
I think that's an interesting segue into this. I'm going to jump these questions around, but I'm sure you get this all the time with the fasted training. And I've changed my views on this a lot over the years where, okay, don't do it. Is there an adaptation that's favorable for it? What's it look like in your total training schedule? Is it possible? What are your thoughts on it? And I'll give mine first. And I guess, yes, we can appreciate there's probably some physiological things that may be favorable if we can pull this off. But it comes down to exactly that. It's like, overall, I don't love the mentality that's behind the fasted training, because 90% of the time, it's not that, okay, I'm doing this because I understand that I'm trying to trigger my glycogen to get to a certain point to trigger this metabolic cascade of things. They're not thinking about that. It's coming from this point of like, oh, you know what? I just don't want to eat. I can't be bothered.
Yep.
Like, I just can't be stuffed. It's too early. Don't want to eat. Like, I want to lose some more weight, so I'm going to do it. What's your experience with athletes coming to you and talking about fasted training?
I go, it depends. That's like probably one of our most famous answers.
Most dietitian answer ever.
It depends. And I think it depends on what their experience is with fasted training. Like, if they've always done it and I go, oh, you're never to fast, you're never to fasted train again. Every single time you do something, you need to have something beforehand. They're going to go, holy heck, like that's a big jump. So what's their experience with it beforehand? What their goals are, I think is really important. Are they going out to run an ultra marathon and they're doing the big training sessions? Or is it just someone who's doing Pilates or an hour gym session? What are their goals? And yeah, I sit on the fence as well. Like if I had to give, I'm going to go back to like numbers. I'm going to go 70-30 again. 70% I don't like it. 30% I can see where maybe it could be useful. Yeah, for the slower, lower stuff, I can see that it could be a bit beneficial, like utilizing fat. You know, you've got that point where you start utilizing fat over carbs, and then you've got like the crossover to where the higher, more intense stuff, you start using up carbs more. So I can see where it's useful, but I go back, yeah, exact same as you. Like, what's the point of, like, why are you training fasted? I see a lot of people wanting to train fasted for like the weight loss side of it. You know, I want to be lighter running. I want to lose 5-10 kilos. It's an easy way to skip out on it. And a lot of runners train in the morning. So I think they see it as like a really easy, I won't do it because, I'm trying to lose weight. It's an easy way that I can skip calories or skip energy. But it is just that, like it's energy. And that's why I'm going to give it 70% to not training fasted, because if you're having, it's kind of like reverse. If you're having that energy, you're having, you know, your really simple carbs and stuff before training, you're 9 times out of 10 going to train better. Your training adaptations are going to be better. So you're going to perform better. Isn't that 10 times better than training fasted?
I think about it same way as you think about your training progression, where it's like you got to earn the right to do more miles. You got to earn the right to do more training by doing years and years. And I'll hit you with a question because hopefully it makes my point. Did you eat before our run this morning?
Yes, I had a bit of a mix. Really weird. I had some dried apricots, and then because I was a bit time poor, I had a teaspoon of honey, just like honey.
That's weird. I
Off a
was
spoon.
hoping you'd say no, but let's.
Sorry. Well, we can cut that and I can go no.
No, let's run with it. Because at the end of the day, like I was talking about earlier, like you're a super well-trained athlete. Like you've been swimming your whole life, and then you're very well accomplished as an ultra runner. At the end of the day, if you wanted to rock up, and it's not like we were running like awfully slow either. It's like you want to run and we clip that 20K run, you could absolutely do it fasted and it's okay. And I don't know what the rest of your training day looks like, but you're probably going to be able to get more intake in afterwards to offset it and whatever. Like you could do it because you've earned the right to do that. You've earned the right by doing lots of mileage. You've earned the right by training your gut. You've done lots of fueling. You've earned the right by educating yourself about what to eat afterwards that fits in line with your goals. But a lot of people haven't when it comes to fasted training. And I'm on the same boat. Some people it's fine for, but you have to earn the right to do the fasted training. Because if you come up to me and you go, man, I don't even know what I'm meant to eat before. I don't know what I'm meant to be eating after. My overall calories isn't great. I don't even get good micronutrition in. I eat crappy takeout foods all the time. I'm not getting whole foods. I go, man, you have not earned the right to do a fasted training session then. You got so many other things you need to do. That's way down the track.
That's a really interesting way to think about it.
And the other thing that I think is important for that, because a lot of people will come and they'll go, okay, you know what? I'm doing it for the weight loss. I always make the point, and like you spoke about with that crossover point where we're talking about, okay, we start low intensity, all fat burning, and then at a certain point when we hit about 60, 65% of our VO2 max, which is 60, 65% of your hardest effort, which is not that crazy if you think about it, we start burning more carbs than what we burn fat. I think most people do not understand where that actually happens. And when you break down numbers, and like if you break it down for, say, let's just do a guy, and I hope these numbers are right, and Bill, look at me if they're wrong, because we've gone over this a few times. If it's a 70 kilo athlete, and let's just say they're, 25 years old, pretty fit, if their max heart rate's 220, if you work out and their resting heart rate's about 60 beats per minute, which is quite high, so they're not super fit. They just say your average person that's coming in going, I want to run a half marathon, probably fits that bill. If you work out where that 60, 65% crossover point is where you're mostly burning carbohydrates in your run, it works out to be about 145 beats per minute. And then you go, okay, well, if you're doing 80% of your training in zone 2, what are you going to be running at? 145 beats per minute. So most of your training you're going to be at the point where you're burning mostly carbs, even though your mindset when you go into it is, oh no, I want to burn more fat, but you're not in the fat burning zone. For you to be at that point until you get fitter, you get the training adaptations, you earn the right to get those miles into your belt, you're going to be burning mostly carbs. So that's how you have to fuel. That's how you have to fuel. And people don't realize that. And they go, oh, whoa. So like pretty much all my training. I go, yeah. And that's your low and slow sessions. Imagine your more intense ones.
Yeah.
Like how much you're going to be burning. And a lot of people don't realize 145 beats per minute, if you're fairly recreational, you kind of have to eat it. You haven't earned the right to do these fasted sessions yet. It's going to absolutely blow out the rest of your training week if you don't do it properly.
Yeah. And I think it's like having the pre-training snack and all of that sort of stuff sets you up, obviously feel better, recover better afterwards, all your nutrition and stuff. But then it's not only what you do for that training session, but it's how that sets you up for the next day. And that's something that I probably talk to a lot about with the people that I work with, is that don't just think of your nutrition as, okay, this pre-training food is setting me up for just the training, and then, you know, what I eat for the rest of the day is just getting energy back. Like, think of it, you know, across the week, think of it across the month, because what you do today affects, you know, tomorrow. What you do tomorrow affects how your week goes, and then what you do this week affects how well your month of training goes. 100%, you can go out there and do a whole week of training fasted and not recover well and just eat crap, but the next week you're going to suffer for that, and then what's the point of that?
Yeah, I agree. Let's touch on that point. Pre-workout foods, are there particular ones, if we would just give out one, I want to get like what your favorite ones are when you're training, and then ones that you recommend for your athletes. Can you tell us what they are and why you recommend them?
Yeah. Okay. You want to go on my favorites first?
Yeah, let's start. That's probably easier.
Okay. I have a little list.
Yeah, get it out.
My favorite.
Apricots and honey, we know already.
Apricot. You know what? I actually don't really like dried apricots.
I hate dried apricots. I used to eat them when I was cutting weight. There's lots of things that I like cannot eat because I ate it when. What are those low calorie ice cream things? Halo Top.
Oh,
cannot do Halo Top. I ate way too much of that.
It's like floury cardboard.
It's disgusting.
Yeah,
Makes me feel sick thinking about it. Anyway, I digress. Foods.
Yeah, I don't really like dried apricots. I just had them on hand this morning. But I do like dates, like dried fruit. I'll buy those little like snack pack of sultanas. Sometimes I do just raw dog it and have teaspoons of honey if I'm super time poor. I like bananas. I'm a big sucker. Like, a lot of runners train in the morning, so time poor. Like, obviously I don't enjoy getting up an hour before I have to go for a run. I just want to get up, do what I've got to do, and then go for a run or go and train. So I don't exactly feel like getting up and cooking toast with, you know, honey, or like making rice cakes with things. Like, I just want it ready to go. So dried fruit, I like honey, I like bananas. I like juice, like even if it's like little poppers of juice, or like pour a glass of orange juice, like that doesn't take time at all. You can just do it. Like, you can just have it. So yeah, if it's a time poor type situation, stuff that you can just grab super quick. And I often find that I eat a lot of my pre-training snacks in the car as well. So having something that you can just kind of munch on in the car, rather than like crummy toast and rice cakes and all of stuff that's going to make a huge mess. But yeah, things that I recommend. I recommend those type of things to my clients as well. Like, I don't eat something completely different to what I recommend. Like, they're all the kind of things that I would recommend as well.
What's the rationale behind those food choices?
Simple carbs, not sitting really heavy in your gut. Like, obviously waking up and having a pizza, bowl of rice, potatoes, that's not really going to sit that great in your gut. Then going for a threshold run or a long run, that's not going to sit really well. So for me, it's something that's light but really quick energy.
Are there numbers you're aiming for to hit, or are you kind of just whatever you've got there, or how you plan that?
If I'm really unplanned, it's like grab whatever you can get. But yeah, I would definitely say like half a gram to 1 gram per kilo of body weight. But I find that even just the half a gram of carbs per kilo of body weight, a lot of people can really benefit off that lower end. Because say you've got like your 60, 70 kilo person, that's like 60 or 70 grams of carbs before you go and train. And if you're someone who hasn't, you're not used to having that, that can be quite a big amount of, that's quite a large amount of carbs to then go and digest and have before you train. So I find a lot of people can really benefit from like the lower end, or even at least starting at the lower end, and then building up.
So that's 0.5 to 1 gram per kilogram. If you're a 70 kilo guy, that's 35 to 70 grams. And for our listeners that do not like the metric system, that's 0.2 to 0.4 grams per pound. How would we go about progressing up from that? Because that's a big difference, right? Like if you're going from 35 grams to 70, that's doubling it. How do you go about, okay, if I'm coming, I go, Nicole, I just had 35 grams, I had some apricots and honey, and then I couldn't do any more than that. But then you're saying, hey, look, Geordie, you got to double that. Like, how do we go about getting to that point?
Little and slow. Yeah. So it's like anything, like you've got to practice, right? You've got to train your gut and you've got to train your body to use that and be able to handle that. So I always see the benefit in starting low. It could, even if someone has never had a pre-training snack before, you could start way lower. I might even go, okay, have, a bite of a banana, or have like one single date. And that obviously I know it's going to be way under than 70 grams of carbs. But the point is we can do that and then, do that for a week or 2 weeks and just build your way up. Make sure you're focusing on, going into your training hydrated and everything as well. But, the next week or two, let's have a little bit more, see how we go. Let's have a little bit more and just like build it up over time until you can tolerate somewhere between that half a gram and a gram.
What about intra-workout? What are your suggestions for intra-workout? I guess a good way to put this is, when is intra-workout needed? And then what should they be having if it is needed?
When is like, if it's sort of that moderate intensity upwards, anything over sort of that 60 to 90 minutes, you can really get a benefit from having something during your training. Obviously, if you're going to go and do 60 minutes of or 90 minutes of Pilates or stretching, not really that
super hard though. We're not saying it's not
I mean,
hard.
like the hot Pilates actually is
I've
really...
done one Pilates class and never again. No, I couldn't walk for about 2 weeks.
I take that back. Yeah, it can be really hard. But yeah, if you're just going to do 90 minutes of stretching, like really low intensity stuff, you probably don't need anything. But as it gets more intense, as it gets longer, you really need to be topping up those glycogen stores, because once you reach that 90 minutes, it depletes. Like you've pretty much got low reserves anyway. So what you want to be topping it up with is kind of similar to your pre-training stuff. Gels, really quick acting carbs, gels, lollies, if you've got like fluid sports drinks or electrolyte drinks with carbs in it as well. That sort of stuff is really important.
And what about after the workout? What type of foods are they focusing on there?
One of my favorites is a post-workout smoothie.
What are you going to say, Macca's cheeseburger?
Oh, no.
That's just 80 Ks deep in the ultras.
Yeah, no, I reserve that for when I'm mentally a bit cooked during the ultras.
Yeah.
One of my favorites, so like after, I still think the thing that has people in its grips is like 30 minutes after training, you need to have like a protein shake. And it's like, go for it. But like that window is probably a little bit bigger than 30 minutes. Like even if you get something in within like the hour or two afterwards, like you're going to be okay. but good amount of protein, your muscles, whatever training you've done, if it's gym work, if it's running, like your muscles are pretty cooked. You need to repair them. Bit of protein, carbs as well. Like you've just, even if you have been topping up with your intra-workout nutrition, you're still probably going to be depleting some of your glycogen. You need to be topping that up and refueling as well. That's why I love a smoothie, because you can just chuck protein powder, or you can chuck, like milk, frozen banana. You can chuck as much as, peanut butter into it, and you can get all of those aspects ticked off really easily. Post-workout, a lot of people, their appetite's pretty low as well. Fluids are really easy to get that nutrition in.
Awesome. What about, let's talk about and we spoke about this on the run, so hopefully it doesn't blindside you. If it's someone who's just ran their half marathon for the first time and they go, I want to step up and do a marathon. It's a guy that just works, or a girl that works full time. They can only squeeze in 30 minutes of training during the week. They can get their long run in on Saturday. Sunday they can sneak out before the kids or wife get up and get back home and do whatever they've got to do. But they're only just getting one workout in a day. Does any of that change if they're just doing that? Or do you have to take in different considerations, or how do you go about that?
With the pre and the post?
Yeah, how are they going about their nutrition if it's as compared to, say, other athletes or yourself, right, when you're getting ready for an ultra? I'm sure you're training morning, you're getting an evening session in. How's it changed just for that person? Okay, I can only get 30 minutes in during the week, and then I get my long run on the Saturday. Like, are you using these same principles? Is it more important, less important? How are you thinking about that?
I mean, definitely that might be when your day-to-day nutrition becomes more important than, say, if you're only training for 30 minutes or 60 minutes. Obviously, intra-nutrition probably isn't going to be like there or as important. Pre-training snacks, like if it's quite a high intensity, you want to perform well, like you want to feel the best, like go for it. But I think I would just take it back and go, okay, what does your day look like? Obviously a busy person, you can fit a workout in that's 30 minutes or 60 minutes, but going back to the whole Uber Eats, are you getting Uber Eats? Are you having a whole liter of ice cream every night? Like the day-to-day, unfortunately, it's the boring stuff that I'd be focusing on more. If people are pushing into that ultra marathon and they're really dialing in that sort of training, I find more that they've got that day-to-day nutrition more down pat. So then you can go and focus on the, really dialing in your intra training and your post training and stuff. But yeah, if it's someone who's just training 30, 60 minutes, you don't need great things. Dial it back. Just go, okay, like, am I eating calories, macros and micros? What does my day look like?
And the only reason I ask is I'm sure you get clients like this. I have this convo when people want to do their first mara. And like we said at the start, their priorities try and kind of get all over the place, and they go, you know what, I'm going to do this and I need to spend 2 days carb loading every week to get ready for this long run and blah, blah, blah. I need to do all these things. I need to get these supplements in. I need to practice nutrient timing. It's like, well, you know what? If you're only training 30 minutes a day, you got your Saturday long run, Sunday's like an average session. It's like, focus on your day-to-day. If you get your day-to-day right, you're probably going to have everything that you need for that 30 minutes. You're going to be able to recover properly. If you're not eating the Uber Eats, like you said, and you get all that good food in, you're probably putting yourself in the best position possible. And yeah, when it comes to your Saturday long run, let's practice what you're going to be doing during that marathon. By all means, let's absolutely practice that. But we do not need to be going absolutely crazy. It's not like, say, when you're training and you're doing 2 a days, and then your Saturday long run can be 6 to 8 hours long, and then you're backing it up with a 4-hour session on Sunday, where what you're having before, during, and after that long run on Saturday is really important, because you need to show up 24 hours later and then do another intense training session. So it's important to put it back in that perspective, because a lot of people jump to the sprinkles, right? Rather than just going, like you say, I want to get all the boring stuff, right? Oh, that's boring. Yeah, it's boring, but it works.
Yeah, 100%.
Last question before we get into our final 2 questions. So third last question. If someone's listening to this and they go, okay, I'm running a 10K I've got a marathon or I've got a 100K. How does the nutrition and the fueling change for someone who's doing a 10K all-out effort, someone's doing a marathon all-out effort versus someone doing their 100K or even a 100-miler?
Yeah, good question. I think for whatever distance you're doing, having a plan is the first step. Like, even if you want to do an all-out half marathon, like, you still should have a plan of, what does your day-to-day nutrition look like, then dialing it into what you're actually going to do on the day. But I think with the shorter distances, you can come up with a plan, and if it doesn't go right, you can kind of get through the last 5K of a half marathon, or even 10K of a half marathon, and just go, oh, it didn't work, or I don't feel like a gel I can get through to the end, and not have a plan B, or just push through it and worry about it later. I think once you get into those ultra endurance type sports, you absolutely still should have a plan, but it just needs to be more flexible. And 9 times out of 10, it's probably not going to be plan A. It's going to be plan B or C. And that's where, like, the thinking and the mental aspect of it kind of takes over, and go, okay, well, I really don't, all I've got with me is 2 gels. And if I have those 2 gels, I'm going to vomit. I don't want that. What else can I have? Okay, I've got fluids that have got carbs in it. Do I need to switch? Because I know I can't get another 50 kilometers going with plan A. I'm going to have to kind of troubleshoot and go plan B. So I think every distance needs a plan, but as you get into the longer distance stuff, you just have to be a bit more flexible. And if it doesn't go right, it's not the be all and end all. Just, it's how well you can troubleshoot and pivot that plan to get to the end.
Yeah, love that. I lied. There's another question I want to ask you. Is there anything that you've changed your views on in the last few years since, like, you graduated a while ago, but I'm sure you had very set views 2-3 years ago. Is there anything that you've gone, hey, you know what? I've kind of shifted on this one. Anything that springs to mind?
Yeah, literally just going off the back of that question, when I was doing my first 100K and all of that, I thought that plan A was going to be plan A. And what I had planned out in my, everything was how it was going to go. And if I didn't have any flexibility in options of nutrition, it was like, that's it. And as I have done more ultras, and even just seeing, and working with people who are doing their ultras, something that I've changed my mind on is, like, we've gone over it before, but you can have all of that theory and have this great plan, but you just you have to be flexible with it. And, like, it's okay, some people can do 100K on just gels, and some people can, they need Macca's cheeseburgers, they need all these different foods, and they need a whole variety of things mentally to get them through. And no one is the same, and no one's going to be like the textbook, this is it and this is what you should do. Some people can tolerate, like, a crazy amount of carbs and, over what they probably need. Some people are kind of pushing it, but they get through. So I think the flexibility and going, if someone comes to me and they go, I really want to run 100K on just gels and fluids, I'm like, okay, well, how can we make that work? Not going, okay, no, you can't do that. You need to have Macca's cheeseburgers at every stop, and you need to have sandwiches and potatoes. Like, you got to work with the person because everyone's so different.
Great answer. Last 2 questions that we ask everyone who comes on the podcast. Nicole Miller, how do you define performance? It's a tough one.
It is, yeah, it's a really tough one, because I think there's different aspects of performance. I think I would say performance is bettering yourself in whatever way that is. If it's like performance is increasing could be increasing your health. It could be increasing like your sports performance, but it could be even like increasing quality time with family or increasing happiness at work. I think a lot of the times we think of performance as like athletes and getting wins at races and, you know, performing at their top in competitions. But yeah, I think if someone came to me and they were like, hey, I'm so much happier in my general life now because I've done X, Y, Z, like that's performance to me.
Last one.
Last one. Or like you're
actually last one. What does performance mean to you, Nicole Miller, in your day-to-day life?
Can I say the same thing? Bettering myself? Nah, the same thing. Performance to me means like doing what I say I'm going to do, which I guess kind of goes back to like bettering yourself. Like if I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it, like I'm not bettering myself. I'm going against myself, and that doesn't put me in a better position to do anything. So I think, yeah, performance to me means, yeah, bettering myself and those around me, I suppose. Like if I'm going all in on something, but it's at the expense of family time or quality time or social life, I don't think that's performance. I think that performance is a bit of balance in those as well.
Love it.
I think that's my answer.
All right. I've said last question about 5 times.
Oh, you lied.
It's not the last question. All I want to do is just get one more bit of info out of you. Lots of cameras recording. Lots of people are going to be listening, and they're going to listen to all this and they're going to go, I want to work with Nicole. I need help. Everything she just said, I'm that guy that tries to do my 100K on just gels. It didn't work. I need to get some Macca's cheeseburgers up in my fueling strategy.
Shout out Macca's.
Yeah, Macca's, please sponsor the podcast. No. How do they get in touch with you? If they want to work with you, socials, website, email, what's the best way?
All of the above. My socials, Instagram, you can find me at Total Balance Nutrition, or you can jump on the website, Total Balance Nutrition. Slide into my DMs and we can chat.
Is it just athletes? Do you work with everyone?
Yeah, everyone. I love working with people in like the sporting world, you know, even if it's triathlon, swimming, running, whatever it is. But I also really love the people who are just trying to better themselves and get into exercise, training, and learn more about nutrition as well.
Perfect. All right. We'll wrap her up there. Thanks so much for coming on, Nicole.
Thank
Till
you.
next time.
Thank you.